Hey there everybody, my name is Aubrey and I'm an opera singer. Today we're going to actually be talking a little bit about Mariah Carey because I keep seeing her performances popping up on my newsfeed. It's Christmas time, she's the face of the season, it's understandable. But I've had a lot of people ask me about my opinions regarding her voice, her stage presence, all that jazz, so I decided to talk about a performance from 2014 because I specifically remember this one going viral and I didn't spend that much time listening to it. I usually don't enjoy listening to performances where I know the person's struggling because nobody really wants to relive those moments when they have them because I've had them, everybody I know has had them, so to kind of focus on the negative is a bummer, but today we're gonna actually try and turn it into something constructive. I know she's never gonna see this video, but hopefully if you guys feel like you have similar things happening in your own performances, maybe something that we talk about today will help you feel more confident. Let me just start off this whole conversation by saying that I think that Mariah Carey is often disproportionately represented by her negative performances because I do recognize that this woman has done so many shows that the handful that didn't go according to plan really stick out and really have affected how people see her as an artist. And I just think that that's pretty harsh. Mariah Carey can sing. I've seen plenty of performances of hers that can back that up, but what's really challenging is the logistics and the music and the weather and the emotional aspects of live performances that make things really unpredictable and extremely stressful, which I think sometimes it's easy to forget about when we're watching a recording. If you can say that 70% of that performance was good, I would just go ahead and say it was a good performance. There's no need to make yourself suffer or, feel insecure about any performance once it's done, because it's done, right? You did the best you could with what you had. And if you continuously repeat on these performances and you go back to them and just fiddle over every little piece of that performance recording, it's just going to end up getting you down and it's not worth it. It's not good for our mental health as performers to look for the bad. You want to be capable of taking criticism and recognizing where you can improve, but you also should learn to find things that you really like about performances and expand upon those, right? Bring forward the positive in order to try and compound that in the next performance. I digress. Without further ado, let's take a peek at this performance and do a little bit of a discussion about it, shall we? I don't want a lot for Christmas. I just beg for no more ads.
Don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true.
That's where it starts going.
All I want for Christmas.
Nice recovery. Right at about a minute. I really think that this starting part was actually pretty good. It sounds quite nice. And let's take into consideration, it's cold. There's a lot of things going on. She sounds like she might have a cold as well as being actually physically cold. She also could be a little bit nervous. I noticed that at around 18 or so seconds in this video, which I will link the original video I'm talking about below if you want to follow along. But at around 18 seconds, the note is slightly flat. And in order to counteract that, I would say try and place that particular spot right in the nose to ensure a little bit more height, because as a result, she's kind of reaching a little bit for it. So we want to try and place it in this space. I usually imagine surprise, that kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, where it gets placed right there, and I want to use that for maintaining lift. Then later on at around 35 seconds, she either shied away from that note or she really struggled to connect with it. And I think one thing that I would say to her is if she's starting to feel a little bit sick, you don't want to push for those high notes. You really just want to try and glide through them. I appreciate that she tried, though. And sometimes you have to give it a shot to see just where the voice is at in the first place. But if she's aware that she's feeling a little bit under the weather, always err on the side of caution. You don't want to be trying to force things to happen. She did do a great job working with what she had, though, using a little bit of that falsetto and trying to recover a bit, although it was a bit timid. As we go on, at around 43 seconds, she starts off really, really well, right? But in my opinion, she's really chewing on the words. It's really, really choppy. So I would say try and maintain momentum, which also is going to help with your voice if you're feeling a little bit sick. Because at the end of the day, you want to keep feeling like you're going to the next word, and that pushes you forward. It keeps that sound moving, and we like that. It also helps the air know where it's going. When I'm doing a lot of start and stop, it can be hard to reinvigorate and be able to hit the note appropriately because I've got a little bit of an extra there when my diaphragm is re-engaging. So you have just these little puffs of air every time you're trying to start up again after stopping. And I like to use the analogy of driving on the highway versus driving on village roads, right? If you're doing a lot of stopping and starting, you're actually going to be wasting more gas than when you're driving in the highway, because the highway doesn't have that re-engaging or that reinvigoration towards starting motion again. If you have to use more energy to get something moving again after being at rest, it does end up wasting little bits of gas here and there. Away from the mic. Prepared. I love her smile. She tried. Again, she's really, really trying, and you see that she's a seasoned veteran of the stage, and that's great. She's a little bit, couple cents flat chronically, but like I mentioned before, you can place things up a little bit higher and help mitigate some of that flatness. Because it's not that she's actively flat, right? It's just, she's in a new space. It's very tricky to be able to perform like that in a new area and trying to deal with all the different things for a one-time performance. At 1 minute and 8 seconds or so, she wasn't ready for the mic when she was returning back in. Always make sure you know when your entrances are, because you don't always have enough time to really re-engage that quickly. So just be prepared for any times that you take a brief break. And remember that those can be a spot that throw us all off. So just, even though it's a break, always remember when to come back in. I really liked a lot of this, actually. It sounded quite nice. There was a lot of really good aspects to her performance. And even though I could hear she was pushing and really kind of manhandling some things, she kept going, and it does sound like the song. It sounds familiar. I appreciated that there were people smiling in the audience. She's smiling. She's bopping along. I could see her get nervous every once in a while in her face, in her eyes, but she's doing a good job managing all of these things. At about 1 minute and 37 seconds, she has that repeat high note, and she shied away from it again. It's possible that she's having trouble with the earpieces. She's touching her ears regularly, but she is pushing through. I think now that you've had 2 little mishaps on those higher notes, I would start thinking about a contingency plan, right? And what I mean by that is anytime you have difficult parts to a song that you know might cause troubles if you have anything going on with your voice for the day, you should plan out alternatives that would still sound nice with the harmonic structures being played on your backing track. You know, for example, if you're having trouble with your high note, maybe practice a couple times singing it a third down. So it's not necessarily the original note, but at least it's something, right? It's something that works and it doesn't stick out the way these mistakes are sticking out. I have little backups that if it's not going well and I'm in the middle of something and I can't stop, I have to do something that sounds aesthetically pleasing, but isn't going to further stress me out / hurt me, right? Because that's the other thing, is we don't want to hurt ourselves by forcing things that are not going to happen, right? It's not our fault when things like sicknesses occur, but it is our fault if we don't mitigate the fallout, either by pulling out of the performance altogether, because we shouldn't be singing when sick, or finding alternative melodic routes for ourselves in order to complete the piece. At around 1:53, she starts falling a little bit behind, and the pressure is starting to get to her, right? The worry is starting to really weigh on her, and you can see it in her face. She's like a little bit freaked out, and every once in a while the smile just falls, and she just becomes aware of the fact that things are not going her way. That's something I always like to try and warn people about. Try not to show the worry, and try not to show the audience that it's not going the way you planned. So really try and fake it till you make it. Even though that's really hard to do, it takes a lot of practice, and sometimes, no matter how seasoned you are, you're just having a bad day. And that's kind of what it seems like might be happening. I do see her giving herself support with her hands, like trying to guide herself through it. That's okay. You do what you need to do in order to make it through, because the show must go on, right? Is it more disruptive to stop the performance altogether, or is it more disruptive to make mistakes but make it to the end? It's that performance that's really disruptive. You've got this. It's okay, and you never know if you might be able to get back on track and it goes just fine for the rest of the gig. It's tricky to navigate it, but she's doing the best she can, I think. She's really pulling back. That was an alternative that I appreciated. Sneaky. She's shying away from the mic every time it's a high note. There's a way to solve the problem. Having a backup plan would have helped that. Hey! Falsetto! It's hard to do the second one. Good ending. Doing something in her chest voice that she knows is there. Big finale. Nice, good ending. She made it. Personally, I think that went really well, all things considered. So let's discuss a little bit about these challenges and how I would go around working with them. And on top of that, how we can prevent that from happening in future gigs. For about 2 minutes 45 to like a little bit after 3, it's very clear that she's shying away from the height. She learned from the previous spots that they are not happening today, right? That's okay. But instead of pulling away and making it very obvious that you're not going to sing those notes, sing something lower, do something gentler. It doesn't have to be that, but trying to do this in the moment is very hard. So I understand that her solution of just going silent makes the most sense than guessing on a pitch. But if you know that you're getting a little ill, or perhaps you know it is possible that you might get ill and these notes could be difficult for you, make sure you have a backup. I am super impressed she kept it together the entire time. Very professional. She was still trying to have a good time and get the audience to enjoy it with her. So props to her, because that was great. When you find yourself struggling, try your best not to oversing. It's not going to help you, okay? You want to try and lean back, go into it, relax, trust that you're going to make it through in like 3 minutes, right? And it will be over. Deal with the fallout later. Anywhere between 3 minutes to 3:30. She's coming up with a lot of good alternative runs, which is great. But again, it's not hiding the fact that some of those pitches just aren't there. And they're kind of iconic pitches. People recognize them in the song and they're looking for them. So it does stick out that she's not doing something there. But I think that what she was doing to try and like recover was really, really neatly done. It's not perfect, but it's very hard to come up with runs on the fly. And this is something that I think a lot of people aren't aware of, is that a lot of singers, if not everyone, practices their runs. They sound like they're just ad-libbed and like off the cuff, but they're not. We absolutely go through and organize what we're doing so that everything can be re-sung in another date, right? So that we can maintain a level of consistency in our performances. So trying to come up with them on the spot is very tricky. And it's not something I would encourage, but in her case, it felt like it was probably the only thing she could do in order to salvage what was happening, right? Those fillers weren't happening the way she had practiced them, so she needed to come up with something really quickly. She did a good job. Her natural instincts are very, very good. In the end, things happen that we can't fix, so we have to figure out how to work with it versus let it take us down. I appreciated that she did manage to get that little falsetto note at the very end to come out, because it is so iconic. But the second time that she reinvigorated it, she just lost it. It just was so delicate right there at that moment. The fact that she had it at all is great, because it really does sound like she's sick. And I always like to tell people, don't sing. It's not worth it. I know it's really hard to cancel shows, but at the end of the day, like, you don't want to sing sick, because not only can it hurt you, right? If you already have irritated cords, you don't want to use them more, but it also sticks to your reputation, like this performance is sticking to Mariah Carey's reputation. It's possible that she didn't know she was getting sick, or she was very early on in the cold and just wasn't aware of what it would do to her performance, but fundamentally, if you're sick, it's not worth it. It will do more damage than good. So practicing saying no and rejecting gigs on the basis of being ill is an important skill for singers to learn how to do. As a breakdown of what we've learned as singers, make sure that you don't sing when sick. Make sure you're not pressing too hard on your voice when you're nervous, and don't stop. Just because the show isn't going your way does not mean that you need to stop the whole performance for everyone. It's more jarring to do that. Figure out alternatives for things that are tricky, so that if stuff isn't going your way, you have backups that work for you and make you feel better. It also makes us feel a little bit more relaxed knowing that there are contingency plans for times when we're not feeling super great. Try to enjoy the bad gigs. Look for the good wherever you can. These things are not the end of the world, and everybody will have a rough night here and there. It's normal. But if you don't figure out how to have a relationship with these bad gigs, they will eat at you. Last but not least, live shows are hard. They're super, super hard. There's a lot of things that happen that you can't control. There's a lot of things that will just go off the rails, and you're expected to just be okay with it and figure out how to be a professional. Our job is to take on the risk of failure in front of the masses. This video was really fun for me to make. I had a blast and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. I hope that the things that we talked about in this video were also really helpful for you, not only in your singing, but also hopefully when you're consuming other artists' performances, so that you can understand a little bit more about the complexities of live performance. But anyways, Happy New Year, everyone. It is going to be 2023 in a matter of mere days. I'm hoping in the new year I'm going to be more regular at making videos, but really this is just a hobby. I just have fun doing it and connecting with you. So if you want to learn more about taking lessons, feel free to click the link below and reach out to me. I'm happy to meet you, and I look forward to talking to you guys again soon. And as always, keep on singing.